organization that stands for immigrant rights, also for refugees' rights and asylum rights. Anyone who is new to communities to make them feel welcome. Hence the title today, Welcoming Schools, right? And so today we're going to be talking a little bit about knowing your rights. The topic mainly is welcoming schools. We're going to be identifying issues within our schools. We're also going to be taking actions on that and learning how to take actions. And lastly, we're going to actually be doing a survey, which is another form of action. We'll get a little bit more into that as we continue. But before we go further, I want to go into community agreements. So community agreements are basically, they are not rules. What they are is something that we agree upon. So an example that I like to use, especially when we're in these spaces, is one, what we say in here stays in here. So we're creating a safe space, basically, so that we're able to share as friends, as classmates, acknowledging that we're all people, and that we all go through different circumstances, and so therefore creating kind of like a camaraderie between everyone. So if anyone would like to share one, you're welcome to raise your hand if you know of one that that you've heard of before or that you would like here in this space. Any of our volunteers remember any from our
with the airplane. I kind of forgot what it was.
Yeah.
Something about an airplane.
I don't remember.
I don't remember.
Any other ones back there?
Oops and ouch.
Oops and ouch. Would you explain that for us?
So if when we're talking, we say something that we know maybe wasn't right. So if somebody went by a pronoun she and I said he, I could say oops and correct myself.
Okay.
Or if you are put off or offended by something somebody else says, you can say ouch and then open up the conversation.
Yeah, that's wonderful. This is also a wonderful practice if any of you guys get in the organizing space in the future to kind of bring about different communities. And thank you for that. It's sometimes a messy process, and you're allowed to make mistakes, especially during education. Anyone else have an idea?
We have one over here. What was?
I said one diva, one mic.
So would you explain what one diva, one mic means?
So when one person's talking, so like they have mic and
Yeah. So one person speaks at a time, right? Okay. Any other ones? It doesn't have to be, in that kind of. We say them that way because it helps us remember them, right? But if you have one like whatever is said in here stays here. Does anyone agree with that? Whatever is stayed in here stays in here. Okay, cool.
And just to recognize that there is a camera recording, but I know, so that might be juxtaposition with that, but that is not for public, it was brought to our attention, it's not for public consumption. It's to aid some of our community members that couldn't be here today, documented and undocumented.
Any other ones? So cool. So we'll put that under one diva, one mic. So give respect.
Even if you don't know.
Awesome. I like that. Okay. Any other ones? Feel free to jump in.
I like, there's one, we used to, when I was a teacher, it's called throw glitter, not shade. So if you see something that you agree with someone or something you don't agree with, it goes along the line of respect, but also like if there's something that you kind of want to connect with the other person, like, yeah, let them know.
I like no glitter, not shade.
Others?
I don't know if this is there's something called like a happy accident. So like if we were like drawing or like something like you know your hand slipped or you accidentally spilled paint, like you drew around it to like make it look better and like kind of like related to like you know if something goes wrong you can always like fix it to make it like have a better outcome.
I like that.
Yeah, that's good.
So happy accidents?
Yeah.
I feel like that relates with oops and ouch, right? Like if somebody says something, we can add something to make it, you know, to try to correct it. So kind of taking responsibility for our actions, right? So we'll put that there. I like that. Anybody else?
I don't know how to really explain it, like feedback instead of attack back. Like if you're talking to
Nice.
someone and y'all disagree or something, instead of attacking back what they have to say, you can give feedback and base your opinion, but not in like a more argumentative type, you know,
Mhm.
tone, but a more informational type tone.
I like the way you said it. Sometimes people call that like, what is it, positive, constructive criticism? But I like the way you said it. You said feedback, not attack back.
Yeah. That's something that could be used in spaces outside of this, definitely more often than not. But it's a very mature way to look at this space. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Any ideas, Bruno? Nice, I love that. Can you say it a little louder for me?
Be yourself, don't go after what people want you to do it. Take your own path.
Nice, nice.
Whatever you want to do it.
All right, let's put it down as be yourself. So this is like a safe space. You can be yourself. Okay. Anyone? Any other ones? Okay. I think we have a good number of agreements. So we're going to keep these up here as a reminder that these are what allow us to feel safe in this place, to acknowledge each other and to be able to share and learn, and then also be able to take some actions as well.
All right, well, thank you for that. So now we're kind of going to get started with the Welcoming Schools report. And so what the Welcoming Schools campaign is, up here is a little bit of background. So it was reactionary to student and community fears, especially driven by the 2016 election. And it was also understanding that there was a connection between bullying and discrimination within the classrooms due to national trends. And so it led to the creation of the Welcoming Schools Toolkit. So this one is going to involve some like looking at material. So if everyone holds this up. So if there's one thing that you guys get out of this session is that this toolkit literally is a toolkit for community action and organizing. So what we hope to reflect upon you guys today is that it is 100% feasible to make changes within your school boards, within your community. And so the toolkit has, if you look through it, it has advocacy tools, it has question and answers, it provides a big source of resources across the whole state of Pennsylvania for other partner immigration and other refugee rights focused organizations. But also, first and foremost, this promotes action. And I guess to tie it into knowing your rights, that it does not matter if you are documented or not, you are protected. Schools are not allowed to share your information, specifically on your documentation status too. And that is also means through FERPA, that means that your information cannot be shared with federal bodies such as ICE. And also off of that, if you go through here, there's a thing called the ICE memo. And so that highlights that ICE agencies are not allowed to intervene or interact in places that are known as high-risk spaces, so schools. Potentially, we'd like to expand that to school buses and school events, because you can understand how many of you here are not part of this school, so understanding that the ways that schools and education systems interact are well outside the building walls, all right? And so ideally, this also does provide steps. And so after this, we're gonna do some role play and practicing taking action under the context of your own community and school issues. But the Welcoming Schools report we're focusing on today, and especially with knowing your rights, is focused on how to take this change when dealing with school boards, which are public bodies. And so with a public body, that means you could take action. You could take social grassroots action. And also know that you're not alone in this work. And also, it was really interesting, we were talking about it today, in the promotion of Welcoming Schools drafts and report policies, the bottom line is it's anti-discriminatory. So out of 500 school districts in Pennsylvania, how many do you think have policies written in place? There's 500 in the state. How many do you think have policies in place?
Not even 50%.
50%? Any other numbers?
I think 10%, 5%.
So it's 5 or 10%? Any specific numbers? I hear percentages.
20.
20? Anyone else?
500? I'm gonna say
Pardon?
150.
150? And also to know, like Pittsburgh and Philadelphia are their own school districts, which are they're huge cities. There's 6. There's only 6 in the state of Pennsylvania. That's why this work is so important. There are 6 out of 500 school districts. And you understand school districts, whether, and I can list them here, it's Allentown City, Reading City, Pittsburgh, Upper Darby, Havertown, and Centennial District. So you gotta understand some of those districts are towns in and of itself, some are entire cities, but you can understand there's a lot of gaps. And so when you have gaps in this work, what we found, so when we made the toolkit, it led us to do the Welcoming Schools campaign. So taking action, it can take the form of community action, but also it takes the form of taking surveys, because that gives your voice a platform for us to build this work, to build these toolkits. So that's something we can do at the end of the session. It's completely voluntary and anonymous. But what we found across the first year of running the campaign is that not all students feel safe in school. So if you look through the Welcoming Schools report summary, this really goes through, it condenses all the findings from this really quickly. So the biggest findings of that is that not all students feel safe within their schools. Some students are actively concerned with ICE intervention within their schools, even though they're not allowed to interact. There's laws protecting privacy, and there's laws protecting where they can actively pursue when they're doing their raids. Language access is critical for student growth. Safe and welcoming environments foster better student well-being. So that came from, and these come from qualitative interviews and surveys, but people saying that it makes a difference when you have teachers, when you have staff that uphold these values versus communities and spaces where they're ignoring them. And one of the big things that came out is staff and teacher development is essential. And so that means, just as you guys as students and as community members are learning about this, many teachers and staff members need to learn about this and be provided this training as well. And lastly, students are seeking more academic support. So that can mean that their ESL, English as a secondary language needs, are not being met, or they're not being challenged enough too. That could, as a former educator, some of the students I was closest with were most frustrated because they didn't think their needs were being met or challenged academically. And that comes from a discrepancy in how some of these school districts and school boards understand the community's needs. And we can open up the space if any of you guys want to share your experiences. Because I myself, I was born, I'm a citizen within the United States. I served within the Peace Corps. I did youth development and education for 3 years. And I did education within North Philadelphia for a small time. But I'm invested in this issue because education is such an important point in a community's lifetime and your lifetime. And it's really disheartening to see when you have these national trends interrupting such a vital time in your lives in such an impactful way.
So I'll share a little bit about my story and how I got involved in this work. I think it comes to sometimes we don't get involved in specific work unless it's affecting a family member that we love or it's affecting us personally, right? There's many issues out there to be worked on. For me, this is one that affected me personally. So I started getting involved with PIC around, I think, 11th grade in high school when I discovered that I was undocumented. So basically, I had heard, whispers and rumors in the family that we were undocumented, that my immediate family was undocumented. But I didn't know what that meant until I got to 11th grade when I realized being undocumented means I don't get to continue my education. It's gonna be like 10 times harder for me to go to college. And that was something that I didn't want to face. That was something that I did not want to acknowledge, something that I didn't want to actually look into because it was scary. Also meant that I could be sent back to a country that I didn't know because I grew up here in the States since I was like 6 years old. Also meant that my family and I could be separated. So there was all these fears and all these like thoughts running through my mind. So this is why this work for me is so important, because when I was in a space like this in a school, there was always the thought like I could come home and one, my parents could not be there, or two, like what if, you know, like what if immigration or ICE decides to come to this school? So this is, you know, I'm letting you know this so that you know there could be some of your close friends, there could be some of your close family members, or yourself who might be going through this, and just so that you know, there are protections out there that we need to make sure that we know, so that we're in a space where we can learn. And we can actually focus on learning rather than being fearful and worried. And so like Chris was saying, you know, one of those things is, if I go to the counselor, I can openly speak to the counselor about my issues. And because that information is protected, because she's a counselor, she can't, you know, go out there and tell other people or give that information to like ICE or anyone like that. And likewise for other issues as well. If you share something with your counselor, that's confidential. That cannot be shared.
What, like, does mandated reporting have anything to do with like this? Like, I'm just wondering, like, because I know that like teachers and like counselors, like if it gets to that, like they are mandated reporters. So like, would it come down to that type of level, or like is that not something you have to report?
If it happens to be a circumstance where you are in danger, like you yourself are in danger or somebody else is putting you in danger, like immediate danger, there is that policy of mandated reporting. And this is, again, because sometimes really bad things happen in our communities and we don't speak up about them. And so to prevent that, there is that. But that's for like really like serious cases where there's abuse, neglect, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and even in those cases, though, like that identifying information is probably shared last for like steps to be taken ahead.
Is it like possible, like somebody who's undocumented, if like a, I don't know, teenager or something was being abused and they went to like a counselor or something and then it had to be made like reported and it got out like that they were undocumented, like would that
That person themselves. So there's bigger laws on top of that that say if you're an undocumented person and something has been done against you, that actually opens up a pathway for you to be able to fix your status and actually so fix your status and continue with the legal processing for whatever's happening to you.
Yeah, there's certain visas allotted for people that are victims of human trafficking, people that are bystanders in crimes, etc. There are processes in place, but what you're speaking about is called the chilling effect. And so when someone does not, whether it's with undocumented individuals, someone doesn't want to get involved in the space because they're worried about the consequences in their own life. And so that's a really important, and thank you for bringing that, it's a really intricate and complex issue to bring up, but there are protections in place, especially through FERPA and protecting student identifying information. Are there any more questions? I was going to say, if you go on to page 3, it has some of
like the HIPAA laws, or is there something completely different from
So
HIPAA?
HIPAA is normally a health-related law, but it's similar. FERPA is for educators. Educators are allowed to protect their students so that their students feel safe in their space.
Yeah.
I'm an administrator, so FERPA goes through your student records. So the school is not allowed to disclose your grades, attendance, or discipline record to anybody without you and your parents' express permission.
And also, along with that, this is the toolkit. This is a good toolkit. But also, this is like a checkup too. So if you see that these issues, you can kind of transcribe this knowledge and review your own learning space to be like, is there language access for us? our teachers and school staff, do you feel that they have the proper training to interact with myself or this population? Do you feel it's a welcoming and safe? And so if these checks are not being made, it might be a good indicator, just like a report card, it might be a good indicator that something needs to be done action-wise. And so then this can lead into the next part we're doing. If you go on to page 6, it kind of gives an overview of what we're going to be doing next, or like how to take action. And it's going to be primarily in identifying issues of your school community and how to translate that to a school board, which is a public space.
I have a question, not for like this school in general, but like if any student feels that their walls are being, like, that their information is being shared publicly without permission, could they technically like take legal action because of the program?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a lot of times people leave, I mean, that's the thing we're dealing with, this amount of error. People realize their information being spread without it even knowing it in the first place. And if you want really good examples of resolutions and welcoming policies, just really take the time to go through this. It's pretty in-depth. It was made in conjunction with Temple Law. So it has welcoming policies and drafts. So if you actually want to end up following through with the steps, you can copy and paste this material and use it as the basis for your organizing. Any more questions?
Any other questions? Any thoughts that you're currently having that you'd like to share? And also, we're going to be using the questions to go through these. We're going to actually be taking action today. We're going to be learning how to take action. So within your packet of papers, you're going to find the Welcoming School Campaign discussion. And we're going to go through this. We're going to be able to do a role play. So kind of find an issue in our schools. If you're having trouble identifying an issue, we're actually gonna assign you one that's common with our frequently asked questions. But go ahead and take a look at that first page that says, just familiarize yourself with what it looks like. We're actually going to be splitting you guys up into smaller groups. All right, so we're gonna pause.
Bring it up to the school board.
We're gonna pause where we are in our work. I hear really good discussions. I hear really good ideas about not just, not even just the specific topics that we're bringing up, but also like maybe even systemic problems, right? Like bigger issues. And so what we're gonna do now is, like I said, we're gonna pause in our work and get to continue that either when you get home or like look it over, start thinking of more things that can be worked on and solutions, right? But right now we're gonna ask whoever feels comfortable in their group to present their case. We're kind of gonna do like a bit of a role play. So whoever you said you were gonna talk to for solving your problem, we're gonna have that person play that role. And then whoever's gonna bring up the solution, how they would present that solution to that person that would fix the problem or help fix or help get the problem started to be fixed, right? So I'm gonna ask, is there anyone, any group in particular that would like to do that? So I see one hand back there. Now remember to consult with your group if they feel comfortable with it as well, all right? Anybody else?
I was just
Is that one person just presenting themselves?
If someone, so the idea is that you're going to be presenting it, and let us. So I could be the makeshift board member, or you let us know. You let us know who you're presenting it to. So are you presenting your issue to school administration? Are you presenting it to school, like the school district themselves at a school meeting or something? Or are you doing a teacher level? So who wants to go first?
I think they do.
You do? Okay.
So this is more for like, I would say for like a school board, like a school registration topic. We were saying that throughout our school, we feel that like racial interactions are a big thing, and like diversity is a big thing. So we were saying if we had like a press conference about it, but then there's a downside to that because somebody could all get that wrong and then find out our information and then report us. So as a school board, their job would be to not have it televised, but have it in a certain way that nobody would get in trouble, but it would still be addressed as a topic.
Okay, so if I'm a school board member, you're asking us, you want to have a presentation with us, and then we
Right.
present that information, but not your personal identifying information.
Right, not like a
Okay.
not like a public, like, or camera.
Yes.
Or anything.
So I have a few, as a school board member that's been working here for 40 years, I have a couple follow-through questions. So why should we as a school board care about this issue?
Because I feel like if diversity is a big topic across many schools. So, especially our school. So, school board members can do a lot more than we can in a community.
Tag me.
Huh?
Tag me. Huh? I feel as though what he's trying to say is, as a school board member, the reason why you should care is because obviously as a school board member, you want students to come to your school, right? You want that public area to feel like a safe space, so more people or more students and families will want to have your students in their school. So if there's no diversity, most likely most families not want to go there because they see it's just bias, one race, no diversity, there's no population deficiency there, so they're not going to want to send their students there because they're only going to feel as though they're going to be left out or they're going to be outcasted. So if there's not diversity in your school, you're going to lose students.
Awesome. So thank you. That's a really good example, and especially when we follow up. Thank you. Does anyone want to be a board member, or does anyone want to pretend to be?
I think our administrator should.
Yeah, would you want to try?
Sure.
Awesome. That's
She's going to play her role.
yeah.
Let's let you guys
I
raise
mean,
your hand.
she's a school, but she's
Yeah, so the problem, right?
Yeah. So explain the problem.
Sorry.
You guys just stand up. You guys want to stand up so we can all see? Thank you.
So just come up
No,
here.
just
Or just stand there, it's fine.
Yeah.
Like-
There's usually a gap at meetings.
Okay, so one of the problems that we identified was that in like many of our classrooms, we don't have like enough Spanish materials or like not Spanish necessarily, but like native language materials. So like any students who don't speak English, like the teacher has like no way of actually, if the teacher themselves doesn't know how to speak Spanish or like whatever, like French, they have no way of communicating with the students. So we wanted to like kind of like fundraise or just like have money to invest in like those types of materials that'll help. For example, like I'm sure there's like some like technology program where you could just like more like that's more like credible or efficient than like Google Translate, for example, or like textbooks that are in Spanish. Or like if the teacher is teaching something, the students will have something in their native language that they'll actually be able to understand. And then so we'd like to ask for like fundraising. I mean like funding to like purchase those materials.
So when we fund things, we have a budget already, right? So where would we take from in order to put there? Because we have a finite amount of money, so we have to take from some other place.
I think we'd have to kind of.
Well, what do you mean?
So when we have a certain amount of money for the school district,
Mhm.
and we say, all right, we're gonna spend this much money on this, we're gonna spend this much money on this, and so everything's kind of in line, right? So in order for me to give you money for these things, I can take money from somewhere else because we don't have more money.
I think in that case we just fundraise, so like in just to, like prevent from like taking money away from like other programs, we just like fundraise.
Yeah,
and
like you
district-wide
can
fundraise.
start like a club dedicated just to be able to like afford textbooks and like just technology, because like we are able to do something just like us
But
students.
I also feel like it shouldn't be just on the students. I think that fundraising should be there in the first place. So I think it goes up to like, the whole peer education like system that funds down public schools and everything like that. I think that funding should already be to minority schools because there aren't like that many schools. Like I feel like they can like take that into account, like Norristown has like a population of many students who don't speak English as their first language, so that should already be there.
Right, so if I find a grant
Yeah.
out there through the federal government, will you guys help me write the grant?
The whole other conversation. That's a great.
There are grants out there.
That's a great. Yeah. And a lot of times these meetings, you don't need to have all the answers for them too, especially it's a jumping off point to collaborate with. Just like it's gonna take time to change.
But when there's a roadblock too, and they ask you a question like that, there's gonna be multiple ways around it, so make sure we can think about those multiple ways around it. Fundraising's good, but there are always federal funds out there, you just have to find the free money.
And I think one of the things I really liked about that was, you know, you guys stayed firm with, we are here for funding, what are ways that we can receive funding. And one of the things that I've learned recently with starting campaigns sometimes to like get to a higher level, like PA, like funding up there, to have that available, is you'll have to go multiple times and just stay firm with what you want to see. So it's really good.
No, thank you so much. We are out of time. We have to close out. But I'm interested. What were the other two groups' issues? I know. Yeah. What were your issues? Just to say.
My problem was large number of incoming students.
Cool. Well, there you go.
Parents not being involved in students' education.
Here we go.
Awesome. See that? That's awesome.